What's up, my peeps? It's Adrian Babashoff, and it's time for another episode. Potty Mouth Podcast 2. Parental discretion is advised. And I have to say on the last one there, that was... I can't believe how many times I said the F word. That was almost... You know what? I'm not even trying, though. That's the way it comes out. As I said on the podcast 1, the very first one is that... it's just the way I talk, man. So let's just get on with the show. Welcome to another edition of Up and In It. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's entirely dedicated to creating an alternative lifestyle design that improves quality of life for both people and for the planet, exploring alternatives to the daily grind through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life raw. So yeah, guys, we're moving on today to my journey to financial stability. I kind of want to give you guys a history and do some more documentation and see if you guys can learn from my wins and my mistakes. As I promised on the show, I want to show you guys everything, the bad, the good, the ugly, the beautiful, everything. So today's a little mixture of all that, and it's just basically the story, the journey. So let's get into it. All right. So what had happened? I'm not going to take you from my childbirth because it wasn't pleasant. I was an ugly, mean looking baby. I was mad. But so before children, I'd like to say that this is never too late too, before I say this. I'm in my mid 40s, and what I'm about to say could be, a little brutal, I would say, but I pretty much think that I fucked up early in life. And meaning that I just partied and I had a good time. I think in a lot of ways, though, I did enjoy myself. I was always financially savvy. I've always worked for myself since, oh my goodness, I think 2001. When I was in my 20s. When I was in my 20s, I was already running my own show. I found creative ways. I'll actually tell you guys what I did is I went to a friend of the family who had a contractor's license, and it just happened to be that he had a C39 is what it's called here in Sunnyside, California. And he's an older guy than me, and I asked him, came up with the idea to, hey, why don't I use your license and work under you and do some jobs, and I'll give you a percentage of all the money that I make. I was too young to qualify for my own license, and I wanted to get away and do my own thing, and he needed the money, and he wasn't doing anything with it. And he was like, he trusted me because, first of all, a lot of you guys, if you don't understand me, my whole story is when I was 13 years old, I dropped out of school and grew up in a rough part of the neighborhood. And when I was 11 years old, I moved back to the United States from South America, Uruguay, and I did a whole podcast on that of my life in a third world country. And I came back. I was just different, man. I feel like I'm different. And yeah, I got in trouble with the gangs and stuff like that. And needless to say, I quit my job or I quit school, and I started doing homeschool and working on weekends for my father. And then I eventually just tapered out of school and pretty much dropped out completely. I think it was 7th grade. I made it maybe about the first quarter of 7th grade before my mom decided to quit too as well, saying, hey, let's just get you out of this situation and do homeschool. But I started liking making money, and I started working. So from a very young age, I've always been financially, how would you say, up and at it, up and in it, man. And so the guy saw me, and he was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So he trusted me, and I ran with his license. We got a notification or notarization for me to be able to sign contracts and stuff of that nature, and I did it ever since. I think I was probably around 18, 19. Maybe when I was more closer to 20, I can't remember. But yeah, so before kids, I was making good money, and I'm a surfer, fisherman. I used to go fishing all the time. I've been to Hawaii like 4 or 5 times, Mexico, and surfed some of the best waves in the world. So a lot of my life, I feel like I didn't fuck up. It was very fun. I had experiences, but if I would have been a little bit more financial savvy, I would have set myself up a lot better instead of chasing women, drinking booze, traveling, and, basically having a good time and not, I wasn't adulting at all. So yeah, before I had kids, I didn't really save up too much, but I never really had a problem I was never broke ever. So right before, or as I had children, right when I know I had my first kid is when I just had to kick into gear, man. Everything changed. Life changed for me. I'm sure it changes for everybody. And I went in and just said, fuck it, dude. I got to get my shit together, and I got to get a house. I got to get this business going and get a lot more serious. So that's exactly what it is that I did. And this was in 2006 when my first daughter was born. What I did is I got very motivated back then. I hope this helps you guys out. Back then we didn't have, they had emails, but I was just too much of a cowboy to understand how they work. But we still had fax machines. So what I did is I designed myself a flyer describing all of my business, my license, and my name, my address, and all the stuff that I can do. And I started going down the Yellow Pages, which was a phone book back then for millennials, people who weren't, around in the early 2000s. And I call it 2000 because of my friend of mine who passed away, an old man, said he refuses to go forward. Everything was 2001, 2002. I just thought it was hilarious. Yeah, I went down the phone book and I just started finding property management companies. And I got their phone numbers. I'd call them up and say, hey, I want to be on your vendors list. And I had to talk to a couple of them at first. I didn't even know that they had a vendors list. I asked them, I said, hey, I want to apply my company. You guys have any use for me? I'll fix stuff up for you. I've got a really good reputation and everything. And it was finally, I think like the third or fourth when they said, yeah, why don't you go ahead and send me your information? We'll put you on our vendors list. And I went, aha. So I learned by making phone calls. And I want to tell you guys, there was a lot of people that just closed the door in my face. Were like, no, we already got somebody. Thank you. Click. But it didn't bother me. I just kept going because I think that's a lesson I would like to say too is if you call about 10 people and everybody says no and you get deterred and you're like, all right, fuck this thing. It's not going to work. I think you didn't try hard enough. You got to keep going. If you got something you believe in and you feel like you can give value, you got to keep trying. I would say if you called like 40 or 50 people and every single one of them said no to whatever it is that you're doing, you might have a problem. You might. But even out of those 50, if one took the bait or took you in, it is well worth it. Because I want to tell you what happened. Well, right when my daughter was born, like a couple weeks later, I get a phone call and it says, hey, we got this job we want you to bid on and everything. And it was a really large job. And I said, well, how did you hear about me? And he says, well, you're actually the one who contacted us. You're in our vendors list. So that out of all of those phone calls I made, I would really say I only got maybe 2 or 3 good jobs, but this was the largest one. And this is what afforded me to actually purchase a house back in 2006. So the job from that one call out of, I would say, my God, guys, like 80 phone calls probably, nobody else, 3 other people, including those ones. There was 3 in total that called me back that I ever got work from. But out of all of those, nothing at all. But that one particular job made me over $100,000 fucking dollars. So you got to keep trying. You got to keep whittling in there. And that's how you get to financial freedom, I think, is pushing your way and just working it. Something doesn't work, change up and try something else. So I wanted to share that detail with you guys. And that was by far the biggest job I ever landed in my life. And I was very proud of myself, and it came in just perfect right when my daughter was born. It was ridiculously perfect because the job was literally like 3 miles from the house I bought. And yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, I made a lot of money in there. That was 2006, right before the big crash. Before all that, I'd like to rewind back. I went a little bit too far. Pre-kids, my mother ended up selling her house that she owned. I was living up in the mountains right outside of LA, like a 30-minute drive, Mount Baldy to be precise. And she said she wanted to go live off the land, go to Oregon. And the mother of my children, which was my girlfriend at that time, we decided to go with her. So we got rid of our cabin out in the woods and came down to the city. She sold her place. We went up to Oregon and we tried to make a move. And again, I always had money. So any of you guys know, making a transition, moving to a new place, it could get really expensive. So, and that's exactly what happened. We moved out and it was sight unseen. We were living in our trailers and RV parks like I'm doing now. They were searching for a house, a property to buy, and that was the whole thing. Is we'd invest with them, maybe live together, and we try to figure something out to make life easier and get out of the rat race, basically. And the whole thing fell apart. I didn't really care for the property that was purchased. I didn't really see how we were supposed to live off the land there. It was very steep and it was beautiful, but I don't know, things weren't matching up for me. So, and it took months and months. You guys know, by searching, any of you who've ever bought a house, driving around and waiting for escrows and things like that to happen. And it was right around winter time when we went up. And I applied. Let me just tell you guys how bad it was. I could not find work anywhere. I made phone calls. I went driving around on construction sites, any little construction site that was going on. I'd ask them, and I finally got the clue. A lot of them said, "Hey man, would love to hire you, but there's not that much work in the wintertime. That's not the way things work here. So you might want to come back in, during spring, and there'll be plenty of work." So we were just getting started in wintertime. I even went out in front of the Ace Hardware store out there, and I laid out all my tools around my truck and put out a sign says, "I'm not looking for a handout, nothing. I'm looking for work, and I'm qualified. A truck with big old ladder rack on it and everything, ladders on it, like all set to go, air compressors, nail guns." Nobody would hire me, nobody. So I just sat there that last day, and I packed all my tools up, and I saw a Dairy Queen across the street, and I go, well, let's give it a shot. I walked in there, got myself a hamburger, and I asked to speak to the manager, and I said, "Hey, I'm really looking for a job right now. Are you guys hiring?" And the manager, which was a kid, said, "No, if you come back in the spring or summer, then we may be hiring then." And I went, "You know what? Fuck it. I'm out of here." It was a rural town, and middle of winter, and I left. And it was my girlfriend. She decided she wanted to stay. She went and got herself a job at a casino, which was pretty decent, I guess. And I just looked and I said, there's nothing out here for me, man. This is the wrong time. So I bailed out. I left. And I says, I'm going to go make some money, and then I'm going to come back. So it was a weird situation, I think, for the both of us. I'm very difficult to live with, very uncompromising. But I made a couple phone calls, and some of my people out in California and the Los Angeles area called them up, said, "Hey man, I'm coming back from Oregon, and I need some stuff. What do you got going on?" Immediately, one of my buddies got me a really good job, and working for actually the city, the water department. So I was fixing water reservoirs and stuff of that nature, government jobs, and basically those were really good. They weren't quite as big as the job, the 2006, where I made $100,000, but we're talking like 25 grand a pop, and I did like 3 of them, and I made ridiculous money, man. It was really, really good. And it was from the contacts and from showing up when I'm supposed to, and doing good work. And my friends really trusted me, and they brought me in, and I made a lot of good money. But I want to say that living below your wage is a thing I say on this podcast all the time. And that's exactly what I did. In fact, it was really, really below my wage. I was living like a homeless person, basically. I came to LA. I always had my grandpa around, which passed away this last year. And he would always house me in there because I'd always fix stuff, give him money and things like that. He knew I wasn't a moocher. But I came to his house, and he had a couple of people living there. It was just madness. Russians, that's my heritage, we're Russians, and people like to drink alcohol and yell and scream. And I made it maybe 2 nights there, and I just said, I'm out of here. I ended up sleeping in my truck for a while, just thinking about where I could go, and ended up finding a park. One of my friends came and knocked on my window when I was sleeping in my truck, and the rain freaked me out. And he told me, he says, "Hey man, you can go live at this park. You didn't know that?" And I says, "Wow." So I went over there, and back then it was about $450 a month. And I got myself a good, went to REI camping. I'm not affiliated with anybody, but went and got myself a nice, good 4-season tent, set that up, and started working out of the park. The deal was then you could stay there for 4 weeks, then you needed to leave for 2 weeks, and then you could come back. There was 2 parks next to each other. And I did that for about a month and a half, 2 months. And that's how I saved a lot of money. That was my goal, to make a bunch of cash and maybe go back to Oregon and give it another shot. And I was making really good money, man. And the old lady she still didn't get it. Even she just says, you're all about money. And I says, well, it's what makes the world go round. And we still have that situation still to this day where I don't understand. But you know what? Each to their own. I do things my way. They do things their way. One thing I can say is all of the things I've done, I've taken some gambles, which we're going to speak about today, but who's got their shit together financially? Who's able to take care of their children with zero help? I've got no backup. I've got nothing, man. I know a lot of people have probably mommy and daddy's house to run back on, but my mother's a vagabond. She just wants to travel the world and go places. She doesn't really have a home. She doesn't really care to, and I fully understand that and wish I could do the same, but I've got 2 kids in tow and I've got nowhere to go, so I have to really fend for myself and make shit happen. Yeah, I went back to Oregon after that, and I tried to make a go of it, and with the construction industry out there, and it just it sucked, man. It really sucked. So I finally said, you know what? I really love the woods. I made so much money. I think I didn't even work for like a year. Man, I was just looking for stuff, trying to get a feel for it, right? Didn't have kids, so I didn't have to really, budget everything. But I partied, I had a good time. I went fishing, I went surfing out there, and just kind of got a feel for the whole place. And I didn't really care for it. Went through that winter time, and it was, for instance, we were trying to work on your truck or something, and it's just a constant drizzle. And it's just pouring in your eyes. I even had to change a starter out in the snow. My hand was so frozen. If you don't have a garage out there or shelter to get away like a shop, you're fucked. You're just absolutely fucked. And the moisture was rusting everything and my tools and all that. And I just said, you know what? I can't do this. So I took off. And I actually tried to get out of roofing. I started a vending business selling smoothies, blended lemonades, and things like that. It was called the Splash Shack. I'm still proud of that name to this day. But yeah, that's how much money we made, man. And I got my girlfriend to quit her job. And I said, fuck, dude, let's get out of here and let's go travel Oregon and California. We'll just go up and down the coast and up in these cities, and we'll sell smoothies and blended lemonades and iced mochachinos and all this stuff and make some money. And we made some really good money. There was a day we made, I think like $2,600 in one day. And yeah, we would just get on the phone. Again, to give you guys some perspective on that, there was a events book that gave for all of California as far as car shows and carnivals and things like that. And that's exactly what we did. We set up, we bought all of our gear. We set everything up. We gave it a shot. And yeah, it went south because of not knowing the industry. A lot of people will use you. They'll charge you, pretty expensive, like $280, $500 for an area to set up your booth. And then they go and they invite like 5 other people that's doing the exact same thing. And you don't know this. Met a guy who was named Hot Diggity Dog. He was making hot dogs out of a Model T thing. It was a hot dog machine. It looked like an old Ford Model T. And I remember speaking with him, and he was like, yeah, man, I'm a musician. This is what I do. Only in the summer, I take the rest of the winters off, and I do my music. I make my albums. So he goes, the trick is you got to go and the year before and check out these places, because most of them are not honest. So by the time we went to check out places and everything, our money started running out, staying at campgrounds and shit like that. It was maybe 4 or 5 months. We made money, we lost money. And I just looked at this and I was like, you know what? It's not my bag, but I tried, I invested. I went to California, as I said, and made like 75 grand, lived off that, just tried to start a new business, and everything flatlined. So yeah, I tried a lot of shit, man. And yeah, but I wanted to finish with that as I lived in a tent, man, and I ate like tuna. I'd go down to Costco and I'd get myself a Sam's Club. I can't remember which one was at the time, or Price Club, I think, back then. And I'd buy myself a big old giant rack of tuna and some bread, and that's what I ate for almost lunch and dinner. And got some really crafty ways, got some top ramen soups and stuff like that. So even though I had a lot of money in the bank, I was saving that to fulfill my dreams. And I think that's what it takes sometimes, is not quite drastic. I mean, I'm a radical personality. I mean, I'll try anything. And I'd just like to say too, living in that tent wasn't that bad. It was some of the best times of my life. There was a little laundromat there. You had to walk over to the bathrooms, though, every time you had to go, which was a little bit of a hike, and to the showers. But had hot and cold running, hot and cold showers, toilets and everything, a little laundromat. And you basically lived at a park with a lake. My grandfather ended up moving out of his house in L.A. and living with me at the park. He'd stay there for like 3 weeks at a time, go back and get supplies. And then my buddy, who was working with me at the time, he moved in, brought his dog, and it was wonderful, man. I loved it. And like I said, some of the best days of my life. And one story I can tell you guys is my grandpa was just sitting in a chair with a big cardboard box wrapped around him because it got very windy. And he was just looking up at the stars. And he just said, you know what? The last time I did this, I can't even remember. Can't remember being outside, like in the open, in the wild with a fire, looking at the stars. And he was just happy. And I'll never forget that moment. But sometimes it's the simplest things in life that bring you the most joy, and I think are the most profitable. So after that, as I said, I went to Oregon and I came back out here, and from Oregon, I wasn't digging it, and I moved in to my grandfather's place with my girlfriend. She came back with me, and I said, let's go back, man. I'm not really feeling this, and she kind of said, I'm kind of not either. And we came back, and that's when the trouble started. That's when we got pregnant, and we had a kid. And we were living at Grandpa's house, and we had to get it. We were pregnant, and I said, we got to get our shit together. So my dad needed to invest some money. I had some money to invest in, and so we went and bought a house. We had to have him co-sign for us because I had zero credit. So we bought a house in Ontario, California, the worst armpit of the world, just about. And we had our kid, and I sold some jobs, and life was going good, man. And I don't know, we weren't happy. I was working way too much. My house payments was like $2,400 a month, I think it was. It was ridiculous. That was back then, man, 2006. $2,400 a month. So I was just working my ass off. I did bring in my sister at one time to live with me. She was paying rent. I also had my business partner at the time. He was paying rent, paying a third. So we were making stuff happen that way. And it just all fell apart for various reasons. I don't even care to repeat here. Not very good stuff. And me and my gal ended up alone in the house with our kid. And that's when I started to see some funky stuff going on. And that was 2007, I think towards the end of 2007. I started to see where the economy was going. Things started to go crazy, and I wanted out. I just did not feel, I didn't feel good working as hard as I was. And the economy started to crash. And it was right before that, man. I don't know how or what, but I was so grateful. I called my dad and I says, hey dad, I'm going to get out of this house, man. I called the loan agency. I could pay the money back that we put in, so there's no loss. And I said, let's just walk away from this thing and take our money while we can. And he said, no, I want to keep going. I'll make some money off this thing as an investment. So I says, all right, it's all you. I signed all the papers over. My dad took over the house. We walked away, moved back in with Grandpa. And it was the best thing we ever did, because we figured out, we saved a whole bunch of money again, and then we moved to Oregon. We moved to Oregon for the second time with my mother. I don't know how old I was back then. You could do the math. It was 2009, I think it was, and 2010. And we moved back in there. We had some money again to start with. And there was a whole nother plan. My mom ended up getting divorced, and she needed some help. We wanted a place to raise our kids. And we thought, you know what? I don't like the cold in Oregon, but the forest and everything was so beautiful. It would be awesome for our kids to experience something like that. And maybe we can go and get ourselves restarted. So we did all that. We went up. Again, things fell apart. I think when you get a bunch of people underneath in the same house, it's hard to... as Paul Wheaton from the Permies podcast said, without having a knife fight, it's very difficult for people to get along. And I'm not much of a compromising individual, so I had to do things my own way. And I moved out of the rural area, and we went to the big city, the capital, which was Salem, and tried to make a living there and tried to create a business. So I actually I actually went and got my contractor's license for the state of Oregon. That's how serious I got, man. And I would like to add to, before I get too further away, I left my family at my grandfather's house, went to Oregon, and that was 2009, I think. And I went and started building the area that we were going to live in, insulating and drywalling and things of that nature, and to get it ready. And I left my family a couple times, and it really sucked, but it really got us financially financially bumped up. But got that all set, got the kids and everybody over there. We moved in. We needed some more money, so I left my family over there to go back to LA for like 3-4 months and get some more work. So what happened is I had so many contacts in LA that the money was just too much. They would call me up and say, "Hey man, I got like a $40,000 job right now for the water district of Los Angeles or something, and it's in the bag. You want it?" I'm like, yeah. So I left, and the ex-wife, I don't think she was too happy about it, but I says, "Hey man, this is going to set us up for the rest of our lives so we can get these kids." We had a second child then, and we made a bunch of money. I got us new vehicles and everything, so they're more reliable. And I had to go back and forth. So we tried that out, and we got our own place in the big city. And again, it was just very difficult to make it in the state of Oregon. Very difficult. Is it impossible? No, but we ended up coming back to LA. You see all this. We left, we came. We left, we came. We tried so many things, and I know what a lot of you guys are going to say. You were making it hard on yourself. But you know what? We would have never known if we didn't try. And I think that moved, although I lost some time, which isn't that significant to me, except for the time I lost with my kids, working away from them, that really bothered me. But all the moving we did was actually prosperous, in my opinion, to the self, because it taught us what we didn't want and helped me to find what I did want. And I wouldn't have known unless I would have put myself out there and tried. Poor family, though. So we ended up leaving Oregon to make it short, and coming back to my grandfather's house. And we were in debt this time. Now we finally, first time we got in debt. And I came back here, and I told my girlfriend, or wife, I guess you call it. We never got married. I'll just call her my wife, though. Never physically, again, because I'm an asshole. But we just lived together and declared ourselves like we were married. But yeah, we had debt, so I moved in with my grandfather again with my family, and we went, and that was the goal, was like, hey, let's pay off all of our debt. We paid for both of our vehicles, got everything all set up, so we had zero debt. We got out of there, and we actually moved into a house which was $1,200 a month in Ontario and California, back where we started. And when we came to, I remember telling the ex-wife, the ex-box there, that let's move closer to LA, or let's go check out San Diego or San Clemente, like by the ocean areas. Like, let's save up some money and go to a place that's really nice, and I can make really good coin, and then we don't have to move again. That's where I'd like to check it out. Like, that's where I'd like to. I really love the ocean. I want to stay close to the ocean, and I love the weather. I love everything about it. She says, no, well, I got help from my family with the kids, and then there was some Casa Colina, I think it was. Casa Colina was supposed to help for my special needs daughter. And none of that stuff happened. I says, okay, well, let's do it. It's for the kids and it's for you. And I would have to say, in my life, that was the last time I really gave up a big compromise, because it pretty much screwed my life up. Meaning, we lived in the Inland Empire, which is a dump, real close to her family, who barely ever came to say hello. I mean, maybe once every 2-3 months. And it was horrific. And the more horrific part was that the schools were horrible. They had, there was drugs and shootings and stuff like that right down the street. LA, forget about it. At my grandpa's house, my daughter was going to school there. We had to pull her out. They shot and killed 2 kids right across the street from where the playground is, where she goes to school. They had a lockdown. Wife called me up, says they won't let my daughter in school because of the incident. So I take her back home. I was like, well, great. And when I get back, I want to talk to the fucking teacher. Went to the teacher and says, you know what? I don't feel comfortable with my kid going to school here. She goes, I don't blame you. In fact, if I were you, I'd take her out. I went, whoa. She says, yeah, my husband's a police officer. It's getting worse and worse every year. And we just said, fuck it, man. So that was a lot of driving power to try to find new places. In LA, just lesson learned from that. LA fucking sucks, man. Stay the fuck away from that fucking place. But yeah, all the money was in Los Angeles. That's what I figured out for business, for financial stability, was where I lived in that Inland Empire. There was work, there was plenty of it, but there wasn't a lot of good paying people. You know, they're mostly middle to upper middle class, and they were stingy, and there was lots of competition of poor people around there doing cheap work. And that's what I mean. For $1,200 a month is a steal for a 2-bedroom house in that area. You know, back then even they were going for like $1,800 to $2,000 a month for like a little 2-3 bedroom place. But yeah, what I ended up doing was driving to LA, and it was the worst part of my entire life. I would drive 3 hours to Los Angeles just to get to my jobs, work a full 8-hour day, and then come all the way back. Another 2.5 hours. I was driving at least 5 hours a day. Your life just leaving you. It was bumper to bumper all the way home. Nighttime was the worst because you're just tired. You're up working the construction all day. And then to sit there for 2.5 hours was just, I don't even know, man. It was one of the worst things ever. But the money was very great. The things I've done for money. So what led me to is the last place I ended up was San Diego, Southern California, for those of you who don't know. And what happened is I told the ex-wife, the ex-box there, that, hey, let's try something different. Let's find some communities, man. Let's settle down. I got tired of being away from my kids. We were fighting all the time and everything. I was like, let's just settle down and maybe do some, let's do some R&R. And so we ended up looking around, and she ended up finding a community in San Diego. And that's when we went and bought ourselves a trailer. And actually, I can't believe what I put her through. That's right, we didn't get a trailer. We moved there with a fifth wheel or 4-wheel camper. It's a little pop-up camper on the back of my truck, and we actually lived in tents. Got a carport, made a carport tent with a barbecue and everything. It was our kitchen and everything. With the kids, we either slept inside the camper, all of us, or we slept in tents. And we figured out in the summertime it was peaceful and wonderful to actually sleep in the tents with the children. I was trying to reenact when I was living at the park back in 2005, I think it was. And how beautiful it was with the dogs and open fire and the stars and just living out in the open in nature. And it worked for a long time, but then we figured out, you know what, we got to get ourselves a trailer. So we ended up getting a trailer and living in that. But yeah, I did a podcast on that, of us living with this community. We made it for about 2 years. It was $500 a month, which was super, super cheap. Like 20-minute drive from the beach, from the ocean out here. And we were loving life, man. We were loving it. We took it easy. We took our kids to the beach all the time, and there was the community to spend time with. And then we started to run out of money again, starting to get low. And we looked, and I says, well, let me see if I can drum some stuff up. And sure enough, what I did is did some internet marketing and stuff like that for my business, and ended up landing one of the biggest jobs I ever had in my entire life. And that was back in 2015. We did really, really good. We moved out of that community, and we ended up moving to a city called Fallbrook, and we had 5 acres of land. For those of you who want to see some of the videos, I think they're still up. It's I originally was going to start this whole show as the Gringo Show. So if you go to the Gringo Show on Facebook and I think YouTube, you can actually see some of the videos and stuff I made of that property. And yeah, we wanted to go do something different, and I ended up landing these gas station jobs, and I got every single gas station for a certain company. I don't want to mention names, for all of Southern California, all the way from Santa Barbara to the border of Mexico. And I was making thousands of dollars. And I'd like to share with you guys, I think I mentioned this one before, is what I did is I went in and got some of the best products from all these different manufacturers. I got all the best of the best. And I brought this one in particular that you can run over with your car, smash it with a hammer, light it on fire. It's just impervious. And I went in and tried to set up a meeting. I says, hey guys, I want to do service for you guys. I want to be your main guy. And they said, well, I don't know. I said, let's set up a meeting. Just give me 10 minutes. And I'd like to speak with the head guy, the owner if possible. And I didn't end up meeting the owner, but the head manager is what we met up with, and gave him my spiel. And I told him with confidence too. I said, give me a job and I'll do it for free, but don't give me any job. Give me the worst case scenario. Give me the job that nobody could fix, the most problematic thing that you got, the ugliest of the uglies. I want to do that one first. I don't want you guys to pay me. I want to gain your guys' trust. So give value first before you strike and ask for, a deal. So I did just that. Gave him my sample. I said, go home. This is the stuff I use. I want you guys to pack a lunch and really just take your day out on this thing and see if you can get it. Run it over with your car, stab it with a screwdriver, hit it with a sledgehammer against steel if you want, and see if you can break this thing. And they did. I fixed their leak for them. They checked out the product that I had, and they called me back within like a week to 2 weeks and says, hey, you're our guy. Can you handle these jobs? We've got about 10 different gas stations we need you to go. One's in Santa Barbara, one's in Lancaster. I mean, these things were all over Southern California. And again, it was the time when I had to leave my family for like a week at a time. And I would leave on Monday mornings, and we wouldn't be back till like Saturday mornings or Friday evenings. And I made a lot of money. And to tell you guys, I think I grossed probably just under $500,000 with only like 3 or 4 workers. And we were killing it. We had to travel all over the place though. And was it a cakewalk? No, but that's what really set me off, and that's what I was looking for. I was looking for financial freedom, and I told myself, I got to get serious, and I never want to go backwards ever again and get low on cash. And I want to make this one last heavy-duty ride, basically, and that's the one that broke my relationship. And I remember the ex-wife was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I was like, you know what? Neither can I. And that's when we broke up and broke everything apart. And so I would say that was 2016, and that was just under a $250,000 of work. It was really good. It was a 6-figure income. The first time I actually made a real 6-figure income. And that's what propelled me into financial freedom. And I've never let myself get down. That's how I saved up for my years. Well, I didn't really have it back then. I had about 6 months of emergency funds. That was in 2017. And then once me and the ex-wife separated, we had to divvy everything out. So that took a lot of money. And I had to build myself back up. But I was nowhere near down and broke. And I worked my ass off from 2017, 2018, and I actually saved up enough money to where I actually had a year's supply. That was my goal. Now that I didn't have a wife in my life, I didn't have anybody to answer to. She watched the kids during the day, and I worked during the day. She worked over at nights, and I just busted my ass to get myself to where I am. And that's kind of my financial story, guys. And then I hate to say this, but it's the best thing. It's the honest truth. The best thing that ever happened to me was my separation, man. I was unhappy. The both of us were unhappy. But for me, I've got financial stability now. If I ever got back with somebody, I think they would have to be in the same mindset of like, look, man, we need to keep a nest egg. We got to keep stuff going. I doubt that I doubt I'm compatible. I'm unemployable. But it took all that, guys, and it's really worth it, especially in this day and age. It's April 20th, Monday of 2020, COVID-19 lockdown. I'm still working, still making things happen, and life just keeps moving for me. This is to present here is from that Fallbrook house, we moved into a RV park, and we're paying $850 a month. I went from paying $2,000 a month to $850. The ex-wife lives in the same park. We both got access to the kids. They can go back and forth when things weren't on lockdown. It's very low rent for the both of us. And I make really good money most of the time when I'm able to work. And what we do is we pocket it. And what I've been waiting for is a recession. And that's kind of what I'm hoping is going to happen right now, so that I can go in there and get myself a good deal on the scale up from living in an RV into, say, a mobile home. or even possibly a stick built if the economy hits good. But that's what I'm waiting for, is to capitalize on the drop, on the fallout. And life doesn't have to be so bad, you guys. That's kind of my story. I wanted to give you, I know that was kind of long, but I just wanted to give you guys my history. Maybe it was a little too long, I don't know, but I think it's important to know the details. And I think you guys, it's wise for you guys to see the steps and things that I had to go through. There's a whole of a lot more, but I don't want to blab your ears off unless you guys want me to. Ask me any questions in the comments, man, and I'll answer. But yeah, we're living below our means. We're living below our wage. And we're waiting for the time that we can invest our money and make something really good. You see, the ticket for me is I will never spend that year's supply of money. Let's say I want to buy a house. I'm going to damn well make sure that I got that down payment and nowhere and a little extra, and that 1 year supply always stays there. We just pretend like it's not even there. I've had that in there since 2016 and have not touched it. It's 2020. It's been like 4 years. Haven't touched it once. Haven't had a need for it. We always come up. We always make something happen. But the amount, the stress level is so far lower than it ever has been because of having that money in the bank account. And I want to go further on part 2, I think, on financial stability, to get you guys in the mode of what you guys will need to do, what you could possibly do right now to get yourself set up as well. So you see, I'm not rich. I am resilient. I'm not famous. I don't drive a Ferrari. I don't ever want to be a millionaire, really, unless it was super easy, because I'm fucking lazy. I don't want to work that hard. I just want to be very comfortable. And I find that right now, I invest in myself. I eat all organic, very good foods for my children as well. I get to take off on many retirements. I go traveling with my kids for however long, like 3 to 4 months, whatever we want. We spend a lot of time together, eating good foods and spending time with each other instead of away from each other. But it took that initial bump to get us here. And I would like to say, in the beginning of the show, I said how we fucked up, right? I did. I think I fucked up. I spent my 30s partying and everything, my early 30s, my 20s definitely. And then we ramped stuff up. And if I would have known then, I would have probably got serious a lot quicker before I had a kid. But you know what? Life happens. And so what I want to say is that was fun. We could have done things different, but boo-hoo, it didn't happen. It's never too late. I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm still trying to create stability, more stability for myself and investments. And I don't think it ever is too late. You just got to play the game different. I think that we got to stop trying to be rich and trying to keep up the image of stuff and try to find things that actually work for us and have the balls to live a different way without worrying about what people think of us. And, save your ego and throw that out the fucking window and get the cash and pocket it and see how that works for you. I think I've been talking too much. I'm probably not even starting to make sense anymore, but hopefully this helps you guys out. So as I always say, guys, check out the show. It's at Up and In It, Spotify, Apple iTunes, YouTube. I think I may be starting to post every single day. I'm going to do something on YouTube, so keep an eye at that. It'll be something at Up and In It, maybe the Up and In It Life or something like that. I just want to take you guys day to day and kind of show you guys what I do, to prove to you guys too that I am who I am. I'm doing what I say I am doing, and maybe to give you guys some context of how it can help you. So as I always say, guys, have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it, and bone it.